If there's one thing I can't stand, it's being lied to. Jim Rockford. The Rockford Files wasn't just another private eye show. It was a quiet revolution wrapped in humor, grit, and heartbreak. Behind the sunglasses and the answering machine messages lay chaos. Stunts gone wrong, rewrites overnight, real fights on set, and a lead actor battling his body to keep the show alive. Today we uncover 20 weird facts about the Rockford Files. Secrets the studio never wanted fans to know. Fact number 20. James Garner's injuries were real. What audiences didn't know was that every chase and tumble took a brutal toll on James Garner. The man did his own stunts. He crashed cars. He ran fights in rough terrain. By the third season, his knees and spine were destroyed. Doctors begged him to quit. But Garner kept filming through painkillers and exhaustion. He later admitted he couldn't remember shooting entire episodes because of the medication. It wasn't acting when he limped or winced on screen. It was agony. The realism of Rockford's tired charm came straight from Garner's broken bones, not fiction. Truth. The show's easy humor was hiding one man's silent war with pain. Fact number 19. The theme song was an accident. That iconic harmonica theme almost didn't exist. Composers Mike Post and Pete Carpenter were supposed to deliver something dramatic and dark. Instead, they played around with a country tune using a harmonica they found in the studio drawer. NBC executives hated it at first. Garner fought for it, saying it captured Rockford's heart. Lonely, ironic, and human. The track later won a Grammy. It wasn't born from planning. It was born from boredom and instinct. A theme that sounded like a shrug became one of television's most recognizable melodies. Even decades later, that first note still sounds like a sigh from a man tired of running, but too proud to stop. Fact number 18. Garner nearly punched a producer. Behind the charm, there was chaos. Garner's relationship with Universal Television exploded during season 4. He accused the studio of overworking the crew, ignoring safety rules, and cheating him out of royalties. At one point, he stormed into a producer's office ready to swing. He didn't, but the threat was real enough that NBC quietly rescheduled his scenes. Years later, he sued Universal for unpaid earnings and won. It wasn't rebellion, it was survival. Rockford fought crooks on screen. Garner fought corporations off screen. Both had the same enemy: exploitation. That battle ended the show but made Garner a hero among working actors who finally saw one of their own take on the system and win. Fact number 17. No script was ever finished on time. The Rockford Files was notorious for chaos in the writer's room. Scripts were being rewritten while cameras rolled. Sometimes Garner got his lines minutes before shooting. Guest stars panicked because entire subplots vanished overnight. 1. Director joked that each episode was like landing a plane while building it, yet somehow the stories worked. The improvisation gave the show its loose, natural rhythm. Rockford's banter felt real because it was often made up on the spot. It wasn't laziness. It was art born from pressure. The writers were exhausted, but free. In a world of rigid television schedules, Rockford was jazz, unpredictable, raw, and alive. Fact number 16. The Firebird was practically a co-star. That gold Pontiac Firebird became a legend on its own. But the production team destroyed nearly 10 of them across 6 seasons. Garner personally chose the Firebird because it wasn't flashy like a detective's sports car. It looked ordinary, the kind of car a man on a budget would drive. What fans didn't know was that Garner did his own stunt driving in most chases. The iconic 180 spin turn was his signature move. Pontiac sales skyrocketed after the show aired. Yet Garner hated how rough the car rides were. He called them backbreaking machines. The Firebird was beautiful on screen and brutal off it, the perfect symbol of the show itself. Fact number 15. The answering machine almost got cut. The famous opening gag where Rockford's answering machine played a different message each week was almost scrapped. NBC executives thought audiences would not get the joke. They said it slowed the pacing. Garner and the writers fought to keep it. The messages became a ritual, a small window into Rockford's chaotic life before each story began. Sometimes the writers used real messages left by friends and crew members. Others were pure satire poking fun at the network itself. Fans began calling the studio asking when their messages would air. That little piece of humor became one of television's most loved traditions. It turned dead air into character storytelling at its most human. The show began with truth before the lies ever started. Fact number 14. No one expected it to last. The Rockford Files began as a filler show. NBC ordered only a handful of episodes to test a detective format without violence. The network never imagined it would become a cultural landmark. The first season ratings were modest, then reruns exploded in popularity. People saw themselves in Rockford's quiet desperation. He was broke-tired but clever enough to survive. It was not James Bond. It was every man in a cheap suit trying to stay one step ahead of failure. By the third year, NBC begged for more seasons, but the physical toll on Garner made renewal a gamble. The show outlived every expectation by being too real to die. Fact number 13. Garner's war history shaped Rockford. James Garner served in Korea long before Hollywood fame. He had been wounded twice and carried shrapnel for life. When he built Jim Rockford, he poured that survivor's weariness into every line. He once said Rockford was the kind of man who would rather talk than shoot because he knew what real gunfire did to flesh. That subtle humanity set the show apart. Veterans wrote letters saying Rockford felt like someone who understood trauma without ever speaking of it. The humor, the cynicism, the gentle heart beneath the sarcasm all came from Garner's real scars, not an act, a reflection. The show became therapy for a generation that had seen too much. Fact number 12. Producers used real detectives as consultants. Unlike many shows of the time, the Rockford Files relied on real private investigators to shape its tone. Writers sat in cars with working detectives, listened to their frustrations, and copied their slang. They learned that most investigations were not glamorous. They involved waiting paperwork and quiet dread. Those lessons made Rockford's world believable. When fans asked why the cases felt real, the answer was simple. They were. The consultants even inspired episodes about fraud insurance scams and small-time con games drawn directly from real files. Hollywood usually made detectives superhuman. Rockford made them human again. That truth made the show timeless and painfully relatable. Fact number 11. NBC hated the humor until it won awards. In early production, executives ordered writers to remove jokes. They wanted a serious procedural, not a witty anti-hero. Garner ignored them and played every scene with dry defiance. Audiences loved it. Critics called it revolutionary. By the second season, NBC reversed its stance and promoted the humor as the show's identity. The irony was perfect. What they feared most became the show's greatest weapon. The laughs were never cheap. They revealed character pain and irony. They made Rockford less myth, more man. When the series finally won the Emmy for Best Drama, NBC claimed credit. But the truth was simple. The humor that saved the show was never theirs to begin with. Fact number 10. Go ahead and like and subscribe because this nearly ended Garner's career. During Season 5, James Garner's body began breaking down completely. The endless shooting days, the car chases, and the fights left him hospitalized. He suffered bleeding ulcers, a compressed spine, and nerve damage in both hands. Production halted twice while doctors debated surgery. Universal wanted to replace him temporarily, but Garner refused. He said if Rockford left, it was over. That stubborn pride almost destroyed him. He collapsed during a night shoot, yet insisted on finishing the scene before going to the hospital. The pain was so severe, he could barely sleep 2 hours a night. So go ahead and like and subscribe because you're hearing about a man who gave every bone he had for a role that defined honesty. Fact number 9. The writers hid social criticism inside the comedy. The show often tackled serious issues disguised as jokes. Beneath the one-liners, it explored police corruption, veterans' trauma, and poverty in post-Vietnam America. Every script had moments where humor turned into social reflection. Episodes about wrongful arrests, debt collectors, and discrimination mirrored real struggles. NBC barely noticed at first, but viewers did. Letters flooded in thanking the show for showing America's forgotten citizens without preaching. Garner and the writers believed truth worked best when disguised as laughter. That mix of empathy and satire was rare for television then. It was not rebellion for attention, it was rebellion for compassion. Each smile hit a scar, each laugh was protest wrapped in charm. Rockford's smirk became television's quiet conscience. Fact number 8. Filming car chases was life-threatening. The Rockford Files had some of the most dangerous car chases on television. Most were shot on real Los Angeles streets with minimal safety setups. Garner himself drove through narrow alleys and intersections without digital effects or second takes. The famous Rockford turn a sharp 180 spin at high speed became a trademark, but also a nightmare. Tires exploded, transmissions blew apart, and once a camera operator was nearly hit by debris. Garner refused to use doubles, saying the realism depended on his timing. Crew members called him fearless, but the truth was closer to reckless courage. Every chase was improvised choreography with real metal, real danger, and no room for mistakes. The crashes were entertainment. The fear was genuine. Fact number 7. Rocky Rockford was written as the moral compass. Noah Beery Jr. played Rocky Rockford with such warmth that audiences thought he was Garner's real father. The writers built him as the emotional core of the show. Rocky represented the old world of integrity that Jim Rockford constantly betrayed and rediscovered. Behind the scenes, Beery and Garner shared the same friendship. They spent long evenings rewriting dialogue together so their exchanges sounded natural. Beery once said they never rehearsed because it ruined the rhythm of real family talk. Their scenes about money, trust, and disappointment came from life itself. The father-son chemistry was not acting. It was shared fatigue and affection between two men who found in each other what Hollywood often destroys: genuine trust. Fact number 6. Studio executives tried to cancel it early. By the end of Season 2, Universal Television declared the show too expensive. The car wrecks the rewrites, and Garner's salary pushed budgets beyond safe limits. NBC planned a quiet cancellation until fan letters arrived by the thousands. Blue-collar workers, veterans, and students begged them not to end it. One executive said he had never seen such emotional mail for a detective show. Garner used that momentum to force the studio's hand. He reminded them that Rockford stood for the audience, not the network. Ratings climbed again and NBC renewed reluctantly. It wasn't marketing that saved the series. It was the people who saw themselves in a man who never quit, even when the world told him to stop. Fact number 5. Garner's relationship with guest stars was complicated. James Garner was famous for his charm, but he demanded professionalism from everyone. When guest actors arrived unprepared, he quietly ended scenes early or refused retakes, yet he also protected young talent. He mentored Tom Selleck before Magnum P.I. existed, helping him refine his timing and composure. Selleck later said, "Garner taught him more than any acting coach." Some guest stars found him intimidating because he didn't tolerate vanity, but others said he was the kindest man on set. He shared lunches with extras, listened to their problems, and gave advice about surviving Hollywood. Garner created an atmosphere of respect mixed with exhaustion. The Rockford Files became both a training ground and a battlefield for ambition under one man's calm leadership. Fact number 4. Garner secretly directed several scenes. When directors fell behind schedule, Garner often stepped in quietly. He understood pacing better than anyone because he lived every frame of pain and wit the show demanded. Crew members said he could block a car chase faster than most stunt coordinators. But his union contract forbade him from being credited as a director, so his work stayed in shadows. Some of the show's best sequences, including long takes of silence or simple gestures, were crafted by Garner himself. He knew Rockford's rhythm, the pause before the punchline, the breath before the explosion. These small moments defined the show's realism. It wasn't rebellion, it was necessity. He carried the story when others were too tired to see its shape. Fact number 3. Filming locations were constantly changing. Unlike most detective series, the Rockford Files avoided studio backlots. It shot on real California streets, beaches, and diners. But this freedom came with chaos. Permits were often missing. Police sometimes stopped filming mid-scene thinking crimes were real. Locals gathered during stunts, cheering or shouting directions. The crew learned to adapt fast using handheld cameras and quick exits. Each episode felt alive because it was filmed in unpredictable conditions. The city itself became a living character, unpredictable and rough, like Rockford himself. The realism cost time and money but gave the show its soul. The sunlight, the dust, the noise, all unfiltered reality shaping one of the most authentic portrayals of Los Angeles ever filmed for television. Fact number 2. The show predicted modern anti-heroes. Before Tony Soprano or Walter White, there was Jim Rockford, a man flawed, cynical, and endlessly human. The show broke every rule of television morality. Rockford lied, cheated, and sometimes ran away. But audiences forgave him because he owned his weakness. Writers called it the courage of honesty. Decades later, critics traced modern television's obsession with anti-heroes back to the Rockford Files. It showed that decency could survive without perfection. Not strength, but vulnerability made Rockford powerful. What began as entertainment became philosophy. The show taught viewers that truth could be messy and still matter. Its influence runs through every dark hero who laughs while bleeding. Rockford walked so modern complexity could run. Fact number 1. Garner ended it on his terms. When NBC demanded another season, Garner finally said no. His doctors warned that continuing might leave him paralyzed. He told the studio he would rather walk away than collapse. They tried replacing him. No one dared. The Rockford Files ended not with cancellation, but with quiet dignity. Garner's final days on set were bittersweet. Crew members cried as he filmed the last scene. Rockford driving into the sun, his back aching, his legacy secure. It wasn't failure, it was a victory of survival. Garner proved a man could leave while still standing. The hero rode off not to escape, but to finally rest. Bonus fact. The real Rockford file was found years later. After the show ended, one of Garner's assistants discovered a single manila folder marked Rockford in an old Universal storage room. Inside were handwritten notes by Garner detailing his ideas for a movie revival he never filmed. The notes described Rockford as older, slower, and haunted by memories of friends he could not save. The plan ended when Garner's health failed. Those pages were never meant for profit. They were a farewell from an artist to his creation. The file vanished again soon after. Some believe the studio lost it. Others think Garner took it home. Wherever it lies, it remains the truest secret of them all. The one story Jim Rockford never told. The Rockford Files wasn't just television. It was rebellion disguised as decency. Every bruise, every joke, every spin of that Firebird carried truth. Garner gave America its most human hero. If you learned something new today, go ahead and like and subscribe, because somewhere out there, Jim Rockford is still answering calls that never end.